The Golden State Warriors finding ways to win without Steph Curry. This team just might be for real. We're going to get into how are they doing this? How are they still winning games despite Steph Curry being sidelined? I don't think he's going to be sidelined for much longer, but I'm Trevor Lane for the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. We do appreciate you joining us on this NBA journey on our 100% independent basketball channel. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, the Warriors have been remarkable this season. 4-1 right now. They just got 2 wins in a row, back to back against the Pelicans. I know it's the Pelicans and they've got their own injury issues too, but it's not easy to beat the same team in 2 consecutive games.
Yeah, that is something that is very tough to do for pretty much any team, especially because, when it's in the back-to-back scenario like that, where you've got the chance to play against that team and then you basically have a little bit of scouting. So kudos to them to do it twice and without Steph as well.
Now, the other thing that's really impressive, and this is what makes me think, I don't know if I want to go and say the Warriors are contenders, but it makes me think this team is real and they're better than they were last season when they had Klay Thompson. When I look at their point differential, plus 20.4. Now, when you looked at their schedule, they did have a couple of early games against the Jazz, against the Blazers. They blew the doors off of both those teams, and so that may have exaggerated their overall point differential, but still, we tend to look at the quality of a team and see it by point differential, especially as we get more and more of a sample size, as we get a larger sample size. So I think this Warriors team is really good, particularly because they got both of these last 2 wins without Steph. Like, that's very difficult to do, and yet they pulled it off anyway. How are they doing it? And are you with me? Do you believe in this Warriors team?
Yeah, I think that when you look at the data, it's pretty easy to see why they're doing this and how they're doing this and why you should have confidence in this team. But I'll say that my favorite thing about this team is the minutes distribution. They've got about 13 guys currently listed having played between 3 to 5 games, but they're all playing about 13, 14, 15 minutes, 20, 25. The high on the team right now is Pods at 29 minutes per game. And that is actually remarkable. It shows that they're really spreading them out, sharing the ball, having nice teamwork out there. And then one huge outlier is Buddy Hield putting up 21 points in 24 minutes per game. So this team is red hot.
Well, you typically don't see a rotation. Usually we hear about a 9-man rotation, maybe a 10-man rotation. Those are the 2 things. And then during the playoffs, it becomes like an 8-man rotation or even a 7-man rotation. But during the regular season, 9-man rotation, 10-man rotation, pretty standard. Steve Kerr has been using like a 12-man rotation. I mean, Lindy Waters has been pretty good for that. Like, maybe it's going to have to be a 13-man rotation. But you're right. What it's doing, because they've got so many guys that are playing well, is it's lowering the minutes for everybody, which to me, if as long as you could still have continuity when you're rotating in that many players, that means with the minutes they're on the floor, these guys can play harder. These guys, their intensity can be ramped up. And I think we're seeing that in some of their defensive metrics here. When you look at what they've been able to do on that side of the ball, I mean, 11.6 steals per game. Yeah. That's a lot of live ball turnovers that they're forcing on opponents. They've been really good in that area. And some of it may be, they buck the trend and they're running a much deeper rotation than we see teams typically run.
Yeah, that's going to definitely pay dividends as well when it comes to keeping your players fresh later on into the season. So I'm curious to see if that trend continues deeper into the season for this group. But regardless, I mean, that's really cool to see that they're winning while playing a rotation like that.
Now, a big piece of this as well, you can see Andrew Wiggins, who's dealt with, some injury, but Andrew Wiggins is shooting 58% from 3. Draymond Green, 50% from 3. Buddy Hield has been an absolute flamethrower, 50% from 3. Moses Moody, 48%. Like, when you've got guys, you expect Steph to go nuts from 3, but these guys, these numbers will come back to earth at some point. But right now, these guys are absolutely torching teams when you look at what they're doing there. And then when you jump over and you take a look at their overall 3-point percentage and you look at their attempts, oh boy, they are absolutely crushing. I mean, take a look at this. This is for context. Last season, the Boston Celtics shot 42.5 threes per game, and that was the most in the NBA by a decent margin. I think they outpaced, I want to say it was the Dallas Mavericks by like almost 3 threes per game. This season, I mean, first of all, Boston is shooting almost 10 more threes per game than they did last season. That's absurd.
Crazy.
That's insane what we're seeing there. But the Golden State Warriors, 45 threes per game. That's, I mean, they're shooting significantly more than the most in the NBA last season. The team that had the highest three-point attempts in the NBA last season, 42 and a half, the Warriors are shooting 45 threes. And then you look at the percentage. It's not just the volume of threes, it's the percentage. They are 6th in the NBA in three-point percentage, 2nd in the NBA in volume. That alone makes them really tough to beat on any given night.
Yeah, that's just an insane amount of firepower. When you are knocking down that many threes at that clip, it's pretty crazy. And I think also with these guys, some of that could be a little bit true. You know, you talked about Draymond. I don't think he's a 50% shooter, but he shot 40% on the same volume last year. So I'm kind of wondering if some of that's, you know, pretty true. It looks like maybe Draymond has turned around into a, you know, low volume 40% shooter. But yeah, ridiculous that these guys are competing like that and putting up that number of threes. In fact, side note, side tangent, it's just crazy. We're getting 53s in a game from Boston.
Right.
My God, man.
It's a sign of the times. I mean, here's what we're experiencing right now in the NBA, Donnie, and Golden State is at or near the forefront in both of these things. It's three-pointers attempted. Again, the numbers have gone bonkers here. And offensive rebounds. And once again, look at Golden State, 4th. 12.7 offensive rebounds per game, led the NBA last season. That was the New York Knicks. They would not even be in the top 10 this season. Teams have recognized the value of offensive rebounding. I also think the three-point percentage or three-point volume going up has actually led to more offensive rebounds because it's created more long bounces. And the Warriors are one of the very best in the NBA at getting those mid-range offensive boards. Because you look at this team and you think, well, who's getting all these offensive rebounds? These guys aren't. It's not like they've got a monstrous guy in the paint or anything like that. No, they don't. But they're really good at getting all those mid-range ones. And 14.4 offensive rebounds per game. Again, almost 2 per game more than the league leader last season. And offensive rebounds tend to turn into open threes for this Warriors team. That is another big key to their success and why they are finding sustained success despite an injury to Steph Curry, because they just continue to hit a high percentage of their threes and crash the offensive glass.
Yeah, they have been dominant for the last handful of years on the offensive glass. I was looking into it. Last season, they were at 12.1. And then the year prior to that, I kind of lost it, but it was somewhere in that vicinity as well. So the Warriors have been attacking the glass, but they have really ratcheted it up at 14 this season. And like you said, I think that there's some correlation happening here with the 3-point attempts and the fact that they're putting up 45 of them, which is absurd. And they have a lot of guys, all their guards, all their mid-sized guys are pretty scrappy. They'll go and look for those so they can get another attempt. And it's pretty lethal when you can get those long bounces and then kick it out for another offensive attempt at a 3. And a lot of times they're going to knock those down as given by the percentage of this team. So that's one of the main reasons that the Warriors have been able to be very good this season, in my opinion. And they've got some crazy production from some of their guys overall as well, despite the lower minute usage.
And then you look at the steals, 3rd at the NBA in steals, again, turning into easier scoring opportunities. Everything that you can do to create an easy scoring opportunity, forcing turnovers, offensive rebounds, the Warriors have been very, very good at those things. Now, you mentioned the shooting and everything. Yeah, some of the shooting is going to come back to earth. And I also think it's worth noting, too, you know, they haven't had the most difficult schedule. You know, when you look at obviously the first 2 games of their schedule going up against Portland and Utah, well, those are probably the 2 worst teams in the Western Conference. So that's going to discount things a little bit, right? That's going to discount things a bit. And then New Orleans. New Orleans is insanely banged up already. They don't have DeJounte Murray. Herb Jones is dealing with a shoulder thing now. You've got Trey Murphy is out. Like and the Pelicans didn't even have a center. Bad. Yeah, exactly. Zion's not been good. Brandon Ingram wasn't good in their last outing, although he's been good over the course of the season. It's not like they're playing the stiffest competition here, right? You've got the Clippers without Kawhi, the Pelicans missing a bunch of guys, and the 2 worst teams in the Western Conference in Portland and Utah. So we will learn more about this team coming up.
Right here.
Houston,
really soon.
Houston is interesting. right? Washington, okay, there's a gimme,
Ooh.
but Boston, Cleveland, OKC, Dallas, Memphis. By November 16th, we will have a good sense of what is real, what is not with this Warriors team. And we could even say November 19th because the Clippers game too, that team has looked more legit than expected. But on the road, Cleveland has looked phenomenal. They tore up the Lakers last night. I was really impressed with their execution. Boston is Boston, of course. And OKC, I believe, is the best team in the West. Dallas is going to be right there. Memphis is going to be right there. If there's any question still lingering about whether or not what we're seeing from the Warriors is real, we will have answers within the next couple of weeks about whether or not this team is truly for real.
Yeah, they have a super tough test coming up really soon here. So there's another a couple gimme, or maybe 1.5. I guess depends on how you look at Houston. But after that, things get pretty tough. So yeah, I think they're all right too. But I think the thing with that swing there is that hopefully Steph is back in time for that. I haven't seen any recent reporting on him or his injury. Maybe you have, I'm not sure. But I think that may be a stretch where they probably need him, because I'll tell you, if they don't have Steph and they go through that stretch and we look back around the Clippers game and we're like, oh, they went 500 on a stretch, that's actually really impressive, right? Especially if they do it without Steph, going up against basically the best teams in the league, a lot of the best teams in the league. So I guess we will definitely know by that 19th.
Yep, we will know for sure. Again, I've been impressed with what they've done so far, but that question's still out there. Have they played the stiffest competition? No. Now they'll have a chance to prove themselves over the next few weeks. But everybody, let us know in the comment section. What do you think about the Warriors? How good are they really? Are they actually in that upper echelon of Western Conference teams? Again, let us know in the comment section. And go check out our latest video on Giannis Antetokounmpo revealing his list of teams that he would like to be traded to if the Bucks decide to move on from him. That's something certainly worth keeping an eye on. So check that out as well.